Our planet Earth is struggling with the effects of global warming. And Australia? We are not helping. Australia was the 16th largest emitter of greenhouse gases in 2015 and 10th on a per capita basis. This contribution is around 3 times the global average. Australia contributes 1.27% of total global emissions. Although some people would say that doesn't seem like much. May I remind you that our population is only 0.3% of the world, so we are using far more than our fair share. As you can see here, a large contribution of greenhouse gas emissions is comprised of a number of smaller countries. This means that our choices matter. So, let's look at Sydney, the largest city in Australia, specifically looking at the CBD. In 2015, 55% of Sydney's greenhouse gas emissions were from buildings and 20% were from residential transport. Thus, I proposed the following research question. How can Sydney change to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels to lower greenhouse gas emissions in both buildings and transport? So we're going to look at 2 international case studies. Toronto in Canada is leading the way in regards to building green. These sustainable buildings reduce energy consumption, thus reducing greenhouse gas emissions, whilst allowing them to discover opportunities to generate clean, sustainable energy. Similar to Sydney, buildings and homes in Toronto contribute significantly to the emissions of greenhouse gases. In 2017, 52% of greenhouse gas emissions stemmed from buildings and homes. Let's look at one of the greatest green buildings in Toronto, the Toronto Dominion Centre, which is one of the original skyscrapers of Toronto's financial district, occupying over 21,000 tenants. This building achieved the LEED Platinum Award. LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, is the global leader in green building rating systems. A LEED certification is a globally recognized symbol of sustainability achievement by providing a framework for highly efficient, cost-saving, and healthy buildings. The TD Centre uses an innovative alternative to traditional air conditioning. Deep lake water cooling is a method used to keep the buildings cool in the summer. Pipes are used at the bottom of Lake Ontario to pump cold lake water into a heat transfer station. Whilst firstly, this process doesn't actually consume any water, the coldness is harnessed before making its way to the city's portable water system, a truly renewable alternative. So how can we take this case study for inspiration for Sydney? Due to the fact that Sydney has a hot temperature climate, air conditioning and buildings would contribute significantly to energy consumption and thus greenhouse gas emissions. If you look at where Toronto is situated, it is on the coast of a large body of water, similar to Sydney. Further research and a cost analysis would be needed to see how we can apply this concept to Sydney, as there is risk involved due to the fact that there are tunnels under the closest body of water. However, this solution is appealing as it reduces reliance on fossil fuels, generates sustainable energy, and lowers greenhouse gas emissions from buildings. Strategy number 2 is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from transport, and we're going to look at electric vehicles. Electric vehicles produce fewer emissions, which can, in theory, contribute to reducing overall greenhouse gas emissions. Inspiration can be drawn from Norway, as it is found that there are more electric vehicles on the road as a proportion of total vehicles anywhere else in the world. In March last year, nearly 60% of new cars sold were entirely electric powered. Oslo, the capital of Norway, now has 50,000 pure electric vehicles and has the highest number of electric vehicles per capita in the world, with sales in the city reaching about 60%. However, whilst these cars don't produce greenhouse gases, they run on electricity, and that energy needs to come from somewhere. Due to the fact that Norway gets 99% of its electricity from hydropower, electric vehicles are flourishing in a green manner. If Sydney adopted electric vehicles right now, there would be a big risk involved. Due to the fact that the majority of our electricity is generated from coal and gas, we wouldn't be making much of a difference. Thus, we need to change to the way Sydney produces electricity and source our energy from another place. There is potential for Sydney to increase their solar power sources significantly. Solar PV has the greatest capacity for renewable energy generation per square metre. From here, charging stations can be offered around Sydney, where the electricity generated is predominantly solar powered. This solution is appealing as it reduces reliance on fossil fuels, generates sustainable energy, and lowers greenhouse gas emissions from transport. So, how can Sydney change to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels to lower greenhouse gas emissions in both buildings and transport? It is recommended that Sydney combines the tactics of deep lake water cooling as well as increasing their use of solar power to generate sustainable energy to increase the usage of electric vehicles. This will reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, helping to keep our planet happy and healthy.